This is Rothesay on the Isle of Bute. Picturesque island on the west coast of Scotland with a population of around 6,000 people and around 500,000 visitors every year. But as of a few weeks ago, there are no banks, and this remote island is suddenly rich in visitors but poor in access to cash.
We have two external ATMs at the moment, one at the small co-op in Guildford Square and the other one in the Bank of Scotland, which of course will close when the bank closes. It has been known at weekends for ATMs to run out of cash. If you have a busy weekend, a lot of people coming over for the day, especially with kids, they want to go and buy a few ice creams, things like that, and they won't necessarily want to use a card, they want to stick a banknote down. And there are people who simply do not have cards, who need access to cash.
It's not just about convenience, it's about inclusion. When the cash machines run dry, so do the options for many islanders and tourists alike. And for some, switching to cards or apps just isn't an option.
I do know that unfortunately, the idea is that everybody has to get online with everything. And the demographics of this island are that we have over 25% of the population are over 65, so very ageing population. Financially, Rothesay itself is one of the poorest in Scotland, so we have severe age and financial constraints that councils and governments need to take care of.
In the last 10 years, Bank of Scotland has closed 187 branches, while RBS has closed 183. Over the next year, a further 147 branches are forecast to close across Scotland, and it's forced some businesses to go cashless.
We opened in July 2020 and we were a much smaller capacity back then, and we always took card payments and cash payments. And then when we moved into Bute Yard, the capacity is a much bigger space, so we've got space for up to 400 people. So the more people, the more kind of cash we were taking, the more deposits we were having to make, and that meant that we had to go to the mainland every week. So we were travelling back and forth once or twice a week to deposit this cash, which was quite a lot, large sums of money. And it costs us about £100 to £200 every time to go there, deposit it. Unfortunately, because of our bank, we didn't have one on the island to use, and we couldn't open up a new one because the address for where we are, they didn't accept it as a proper address. It just came to a really difficult position where we just had to decide whether it was worth our time, sustainability, to go back and forward to deposit the cash or just try and be more card.
Iona says continuing to accept cash would have forced staff into potentially dangerous situations.
It meant having to divide that cash into smaller sums so that we were going to the mainland with less amount, so that it was a safer travel for a staff member to go from here to there with that amount of money. So that really didn't help things either. So that meant either more trips through ferries and fuel and travel to deposit the smaller sums so that you felt more secure, or just being unsafe or feeling a bit uneasy travelling with that much money as well.
One of the reasons remote areas have been reluctant to leave cash behind is because of poor infrastructure. But with improvements being made, those concerns are abating.
We do have customers that like to continue to use their cash, but the majority of our sales and transactions are done digitally and are cash free. I think being in a remoter place like the Isle of Bute, one of the challenges in the past has been internet connections and the quality of those connections. And there are still parts of the island that are affected by that, and they can cause problems with till systems if the internet goes down or is slow. But more and more, as the island is being upgraded with its technology, then that is becoming more seamless.
This is the last bank on the Isle of Bute. It was announced at the beginning of this year it will close this summer. Instead of traditional branches, a new community hub where everyone will bank will open in its place. It's the role of not-for-profit Link to step in when a bank branch disappears and decide if the local community qualifies for one of these new hubs.
The change in bank branches across Scotland is being driven by people choosing to pay in new ways. A lot of people watching your show tonight will be using online banking, they might be paying with contactless payment, they might be paying with their watch. Truth is, lots of people have moved away from cash, and that's driving that closure of the bank branches across Scotland and across the UK as well.
What do you say to kind of rural communities who are losing their kind of last bank branch, and a lot of older people as well who maybe feel cut off from the technological changes we're seeing in banking?
It's absolutely critical that we keep access to cash in rural communities as well as in towns where the bank branches are closing. That's why whenever a bank branch closes, we go and look at the situation. We go and figure out, well, what does this place need to manage its cash properly? So we go to that town and we go, how many businesses are there? How many people are relying on it? And what's the right service? And you're absolutely right that older people and more deprived people, people who are vulnerable, are more likely to be budgeting in cash. And it's those people we want to make sure can still keep cash in their pocket for as long as it's needed. So yes, I recognise those concerns, but I think we're doing the right thing by protecting access to cash where it's needed.
Banking hubs are shared spaces offering basic services like cash withdrawals and deposits run by the post office. Different banks send staff on set days to help with more complex queries, aiming to fill the gap left by closed branches. Do you believe the banking hubs that are being set up can fully replace bank branches that are closing?
We've recommended 30 across Scotland, there's 150 open across the UK now, and they're proving a real hit on the high street. So local businesses can continue taking cash and banking their cash locally, and people are finding them to offer a really good service. And if you think about it, when your last bank closes in town and it gets replaced by a hub, all of a sudden you can use services whoever you bank with, because 96% of UK customers can manage their cash every day at a banking hub. And then on particular days, your bank will be there to offer that bit more support. So the banking hubs are playing a really crucial role in replacing those closed branches.
Across the UK, nearly 9 in 10 adults now use online or remote banking. That's around 47 million people. And digital-only banks are on the rise too, with more and more people choosing to put their money with firms that don't have any high street presence. Around 40% of UK adults already have a digital-only account, with that number expected to rise to more than half of UK adults within the next 5 years. And for the older people in particular, the shift away from cash and in-branch banking is not only daunting, but can leave them vulnerable to fraudsters.
No, I wouldn't dream of banking online because I've already been hacked, and I lost £8,000, and I got it back again from the bank because I reported it immediately, and they believed me, fortunately. So that was all right, but it really shook me up. I mean, I'm very scared of it now. I wouldn't dream of banking. If they force me to, I'm going to simply get money and store it in the house.
Do you find banking online easy?
No, I don't. I'm always asking questions. And in fact, one of the branches, one of the women raises her eyes every time she sees me coming in. And another friend went into a branch, I'll tell you this story, and said, can you show me how to do this? And they showed her. A month later, she had to go back because she couldn't remember. I've shown you this already. So she just turned on her heel and walked out. I mean, they've got no patience for us. We've gone through a lot, but we're not with it. In fact, a lot of them aren't with it either.
I've been shown a couple of times how to use online banking, and I'm still a bit reticent. What I feel is that I don't want the choice taken away. I recognise I need to learn how to use online banking, but I don't want cash to be taken away. I like the choice element to be able to use both.
So what or who is driving this shift away from cash? Do you still tend to use cash?
No, not at all. I mean, I have £20 on me, but I just want to get rid of it. Everywhere I go doesn't even take cash, they don't really take change, and it's so much easier using card. I hate depending on it. I feel like, I don't know, it just feels weird just only ever using like card and stuff like that. It's like, what if something happens? What if there's like a big bank thing? Yeah, I know, I just stress a lot, but cash is pretty unreliable, I'd say. I miss it, but there's just no point really carrying it anymore when there is card.
Banks are closing a lot of bank branches, and some people have concerns, other people don't have concerns because they just use online banking. Do you ever go into a branch at all?
No, I don't think I ever have. I always use my phone for everything. I don't even have my card on me. I use my phone for that as well.
I do everything online, but I have in the past had to use a branch, so it is concerning that they wouldn't be accessible anymore.
I carry like a tenner around with me, but like most of my bank is online, obviously. Yeah, like Apple Pay and stuff. So.
And why do you tend to use Apple Pay more than cash?
I'd say it's easier. Like, I'm not great at counting, so I'm like always using Apple Pay rather than actually counting my money.
I prefer it when I go out shopping so I can kind of control my money. I feel like when I tap my card all the time, you don't really see the money go. It just keep tapping and tapping.
In April, a new report presented to the UK government by the Commons Treasury Committee said a lack of action from the government to tackle declining cash acceptance could lead to a two-tier society, with the most vulnerable bearing the cost. The report stopped short of recommending a change in the law that would force shops and venues to accept cash, but did say the government had to improve its monitoring of the issue.
If the trajectory continued, my own view is that the government would have to seriously consider intervention. And there are a number of reasons for that. There's excluding people that we'd want to protect, but also there's a resilience question. You can have bank outages, and the Treasury Select Committee's been in regular correspondence with banks about that. There's cyber attack and there's national resilience. And that's why internationally you do see some countries looking at mandating the acceptance of cash for those kind of national security and also really important social reasons.
With more branches closing and digital banking on the rise, the future looks increasingly cashless. But at what cost?